Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be continuing reading through our entire Bible. We've gotten just about, just about halfway, not quite. Now we're going to read completely through this. But right now we've been learning about David and things here recently. And as we found out that his son, Abner, I think it was, Absalom, had killed his other brother, Amon. His other son, Amon, who was supposed to be the next king, after David. But Absalom wanted it for himself, so he killed his brother Amon, but his other brothers, weren't as drunk as what he had hoped they were going to be, and they were able to escape, and now, he has fled to his grandfather's kingdom, to hide from David. So for 3 years, David grieves for his sons, the one who's dead and the one who ran away, but he does nothing. Finally, Joab confronts him. David, you must do something. The kingdom needs an heir to the throne, and right now that heir is hiding out in exile. Very well, but on one condition. And now we are Joab has, gone to Absalom. He says, your father misses you, Absalom. He sent me to bring you back to Jerusalem. I'm glad he finally has forgiven me. Well, not entirely. He says you can't live in the palace or come to see him. If that's the way he wants it, I will do as my father commands. But he thinks himself, you won't treat me that way for long. For 2 more years, Absalom lives in Jerusalem without seeing his father. He resents his treatment, and his anger grows until at last he can't stand it any longer. He sends for Joab, but Joab refuses to come. Fine, if Joab doesn't think I'm important enough to talk to, then I'll give him something important to deal with. Joab has a barley field next to mine. Set it to fire. So, since it angered him because his father wouldn't see him anymore, he couldn't live in the palace. Now, Joab won't come and talk to him because nobody has respect for him or what he had done. So he sets fire to Joab's fields. What on earth does he think he's doing? Prince or not, prince or no prince, I'm going to... And he runs in there and he says, and Absalom is there to greet him, Joab, I'm glad you could join me. I've decided that I'm tired of this isolation. My father asked me to come back to Jerusalem. If he wants to punish me for what I did, let him do it. But if not, then he needs to forgive me and treat me like a son again. And Joab thinks one day I'll get even with you for the way you've treated me. Grudgingly, Joab takes Absalom's message to King David. Your son misses you, and he wants you to forgive him and welcome him back into the family. He misses me? Truth be told, I miss him too. All right, tell him that he may come to see me. And Absalom comes to see me. He says, stand up, Absalom, I forgive you. From now on, you will be welcomed at the palace as a prince of Israel. Absalom pretends to be humble as he bows before his father, asking forgiveness. But in his heart, he has an evil plan. Absalom loses no time in letting the people of Jerusalem know that his father has forgiven him. And he's out on he's out in a chariot, and he's got all, the people of Jerusalem there. They're shouting out, Absalom is the most handsome of all the princes of Israel. His chariot and horses are as fine as the king's. Absalom is a true politician. He spends most of his days at the city gates, winning over the affection of travelers from all over Israel and encouraging men to tell him their problems. So he stands out. There's these people coming from all over Israel, and and as he's a true politician, he really knows how to talk. He really knows how to get the people to like him and, to trust him and to want him as their leader. The tax collector has cheated me. I'm going to take my case to the king. Unfortunately, my father is too busy to worry about your problems. Now, if I were king, I'd make sure that you got your money back. See, that's what he's doing. He's tricking them, with his talk. He's tricking him into, well, if I was king, I'll give it to you back. And then the people are going to be like, well, I wish he was king. So even after all he'd done, his father had forgiven him. He murdered his own brother. His father had forgiven him, brought him back, And instead, that wasn't enough. He needed to be king now. He was jealous, and he was, hungry for power and to be the king of Jerusalem and Israel. So we'll see where, this takes him next. And, if you remember what David had done with Bathsheba and all that stuff, the sin that he had committed in murdering her husband, unfortunately that had brought more of these things that shouldn't have happened. It's been, opened up to, him because of the mistakes that David had made. Unfortunately, again, like I said last time, sometimes your mistakes don't only affect you. Your sin doesn't only affect you; it can affect those around you. But I am not king, and until I am, I can't do anything for you. I wish you were king. Soon, my friend, very soon, he thinks to himself. People are starting to want him to be king. After several years spent winning the affection of the people, Absalom decides he's has enough popular support to take the throne of his father. He goes to Hebron, his birthplace, in the old capital of Israel, to launch his rebellion. He invites several important Israelite leaders to meet him there and give them instructions to his loyal messengers. Now that he's built up a following and of people that want him to be king and they want to follow him, now he plans to take the throne from his father. His father's not dead yet, but he wants the throne now. He wants to be king immediately. So he plans on taking the kingdom from him. In Hebron, Absalom waits until great throngs of his followers reach the city. Then he appears before the people. The trumpet sounds, and the people are shouting out, "Absalom, long live the king." Absalom is the ruler of Hebron. One of the leaders cheering for Absalom is, I'm probably going to say this wrong, but Ahithophel. His father, chief advisor, Ahithophel is Bathsheba's grandfather. He has long held a secret grudge against David for killing Bathsheba's, first husband. So, of course he's going to, be all for taking the throne from him, So, therefore, he teams up with Absalom. What do we do next? We march on Jerusalem. David hasn't had enough time to rally his army. If he tries to fight back, he won't have a chance. Now that you have me to advise you. So, meanwhile, more and more people rush to Hebron. And people are trying to figure out what's the excitement. Absalom is leading a revolt against King David. We're giving our allegiance to Absalom. So Absalom is for the people. These are great days for Israel. Come join us. This guy says, "Oh, well, I will, but first my sheep. I must take care of them first." But he, instead of joining the crowds on the way to Hebron, the faithful shepherd runs north until he reaches the gates of David's capital in Jerusalem. And he knocks. He says, "Open the king's lice and danger." And he comes up to speak to David. The people have revolted. They are proclaiming that Absalom is the king in Hebron. He says, "My son, why has he done this to me?" So we're going to end it there. So, now Absalom, after his father has, forgiven him and has invited him back into the kingdom, his lust for power and to be on that throne and to be the king of Jerusalem, has grown. And he planned, and he done this for years. He won the people's trust. He won the people really, to follow him, to not listen to David anymore, to listen to him and to help Absalom to fight David so he could become king. And since he promises them all this stuff, and that happens even in our world today, we get these politicians up here and they promise all this, and then they become the leader or what they were running for, and none of that stuff is true. They bend stuff into a way that they are what's the word I'm looking for? They are basically blessed with what they're doing stuff to for themselves, for the other politicians. They're not doing this for the people. They say they are. They promise this stuff, but they never go through with it. They do stuff in a way for them to receive. And Absalom is, in that same manner. He's not for the people, but he knew if he won them over that they would be all for him being the king and not David. And unfortunately, this has been caused by sin, and that's why I said, if David wouldn't have done this, these things would never have happened. His son wouldn't. Two of his sons, one had died at childbirth. Amon had been murdered. Two of them are dead. The third one hates him, wants to kill him. Wants to take his throne. All this could be, could have been, avoided. But unfortunately, David let his lust, and he let the devil whisper into his ear, and he listened to that. There's always in two voices that you can hear, one of God, one of the devil, and oftentimes we choose to listen to the devil's because it just sounds more pleasing, and it's what your flesh wants, is what your flesh craves, instead of fighting the good fight and listening to God, turning away, walking away. The blessings that are in heaven and the blessings that come from God are far greater than the pleasures of this world. And unfortunately, as we saw, David is forgiven, David is in heaven, but unfortunately, some of his sons have died, and now he has one that has turned against him as well as his kingdom. So, again, your sins don't always just affect you. Sometimes God will punish you, but he can punish you in certain other ways, involving other people. So, just remember that, we need to, if you have, done something that know is sinful, come to God now. Ask for that forgiveness, and he will purify you, and he will cleanse you. Wash that away. He can make you a new person and replace any depression or anger or hatred or guilt, all that stuff, with peace and joy, and happiness. And that I can guarantee you. So thank you guys for watching. As always, take it easy and God bless.